Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Space for Grace. I am your host, Ashleigh Grace, and this is episode 1. I'm so glad that we are here together. I hope that you all enjoy this because I have enjoyed getting it all together. And this episode is going to be a little bit different than all the upcoming episodes. I figured that this first episode I would talk about a little bit about myself and then a little bit about how this podcast is going to go from now on. And yeah, so a little bit about myself. I am 24 years old. I am single and I love Jesus, if you can't tell. I also, if you can't tell, I love Highlands cows. That's why that picture's there. But I enjoy putting together Lego sets. I have some Legos in this room. And I work full time. I don't really enjoy it, but it pays the bills. It gets things done. And a lot of what I will have to say will probably relate to a lot of what I've been through in my past experiences, especially within the last year, because I had a rough year, and that is how I have built my relationship with God, especially the last 6 months. I really dove deep into my faith, and I have gotten so much closer to Jesus that it's kind of unreal to me. But yeah, I am so excited to share with you all what God has done in my life and what He does throughout this journey together. So that's a little bit about me. And then on the podcast, I do want to share my testimony eventually. It's kind of boring though. I'm one of those people that was raised in a church all of my life, and I did have like quite a few bumps in the road, but I feel like everybody does. But the thing is, like, God doesn't give up on you, and that's what I love. And Jesus is always there to help you out, and that's what I love about Him. That's why I love Jesus. And so I do want to share my testimony just because it has been a wild journey for me. Just probably the last 7 years, I feel like. Just being an adult. I feel like being an adult is what really makes it real for you. But that, and then I want to share like the experiences that a 24-year-old single Christian girl goes through. Also, along with that, the blessings that come with it. Oh my gosh, the blessings. Let me tell y'all. I have never been so blessed in my life. And I thought, Jesus, my life is over. And He said, no, honey, it is not. You just don't see it right now. And that is what He does, is He replaces things in your life. And I actually have a couple things written down that I'll share here in a minute, but along with the blessings I want to share is the hardships that come with being a Christian, and that a lot of people don't share because a lot of people just have this perfect, happy life that they share on Instagram and everything, and that's just not me. I struggle with anxiety and depression, and I have learned that giving that over to God is like one of the hardest things, but it's so good. And that in itself is just like a life lesson for me. But I'm here to tell you all about it. Eventually, we'll get there. One of the next upcoming episodes, I guess. But some of the things that I want to share today, this is some of the things that I've just written down along the way that has helped me get through, and I feel like has really been on my heart. And the way that I wrote it down is things to remember, because I guess in the moment you can really not want to think straight and like put yourself in a victim mentality and look at things like, oh, why is this happening to me? Or why is this going on? But if you remember these things, it helps a little bit. So number one is when God removes, he replaces. So this was really big for me about 6 months ago. I was going through a breakup, and I really thought that I had my life figured out. And then it was just like snatched right out from underneath me. And it kind of just like took me by surprise. And so I did not know what to do with my life. And I went through a very dark moment. It was a very long moment, like months. But within those months, I became really sick. And I don't know if it was anxiety that caused this sickness to come on. I don't know what it was, honestly. But in the meantime of being sick, my gallbladder went bad, and I had to have that removed, which was so much fun. I hope none of you all have to go through that. So that happened, and then I continued to be sick after that, and that was just really hard on my mental health, because I don't know if anybody has ever went through this, but not having answers for something going on with your body and having doctors not be able to tell you what's really going on is scary. And I lost a significant amount of weight in a very short period of time, and that was very unlike me. Like, I do like powerlifting stuff, so I don't compete, but like that's what kind of workouts I do. And so like I'm used to being like a little bit on the heavier set side, and so losing so much weight and being weak was just not like me. And it was really hard to deal with. And so my mental headspace was just not good. And within the last couple of months, I really had to just hand it over to God, because it got to the point where I was just like, God, I can't take this by myself anymore. And it was really like the first of the year, and it was actually when I decided to do this podcast, because like I couldn't sit around any longer. I'm always being active or doing something, and I couldn't sit and do nothing anymore. I couldn't just sit there. And so I got to the point where I started having to like change the way I was doing things. So the sickness that I had was I couldn't keep food down, and so I had to force myself to keep it down, which sounds so nasty. I'm so sorry, but like that's the only way to describe it without being even nastier. But I needed energy to give myself so that I would be able to work out. That was my whole situation. And without being able to eat, I couldn't work out to make my body stronger. And so it was like a never-ending cycle. So I finally was able to start eating, and I was able to start going to the gym more. And I feel like that helped my mental space a little bit better. But I still had this like lingering problem of like, I still don't know what's wrong with me. And I had a test done a couple weeks ago, and I remember it's actually a stomach emptying study, and it takes a really long time, very long time. And I remember laying there on the bed, and I just prayed, like, God, I know you have this. Just please heal my body. And I'm not joking. Like, I do have my days where I'm very nauseous and don't feel the greatest. I don't feel like doing anything, but I feel like God's working in me. Like, I don't feel like I have the worst sickness of my life anymore. And I feel like He's answering all these prayers in my life. And it's so unbelievable. So, back to this whole what God removes, He replaces. I went through this breakup and thought my life was over, but really, He was removing something that I didn't need or that He didn't want in my life. And then He replaced it with something so much greater than I could have ever explained. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the exact form of what He took away. So for me, it wasn't another relationship. For me, it was a crew. And what a crew is at my church is a small group. And I started going to a small group. And it's really funny how I started to get into this small group. And I know Sarah is going to love me sharing this because I don't think I ever shared with her, like, how my perspective of how we met and, like, how I got involved in this small group. But I know I shared it with a couple other people, but not her specifically. So, Sarah, this is my perspective of how meeting you went. So I had just been recovering from my surgery. It had been probably 3 or 4 weeks because I was, like, down and out, but I was struggling so hard. Like, I was like, I just need to get to church. Like, I just need to make it. I don't need to throw up anything. I need to put real clothes on. I need to go. And I remember I would take a pillow with me on the car ride so I could hold it against my stomach because, like, that just felt so much better than the car ride without it. And then I would leave the pillow in the car and I would just make my way into church. But I made my way into church and she was sitting, like, a couple seats down, and she looked at me and she was like, "Hey, I'm Sarah. What's your name?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm Grace." And I'm, like, not the most outspoken person until you get to know me. And then I'll chat your ear off. But she was like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm okay." And she's like, "What's going on?" And, like, I just kind of told her, like, everything that was going on in my life. Like, I just kind of spilled it. And that's also very unlike me. And she was like, "I'm going to pray for you. And I'm going to tell my crew that they need to pray for you." And I was just like, I've had people tell me all the time that they're going to pray for me, and I just don't think that people pray for me. Well, I ended up actually joining this crew, and there's an app that we use to communicate, and this message popped up in my messages once I joined, and it was Sarah's message asking for prayers for me. And that just, like, hit my heart so hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I know this is exactly where I belong. And I've never felt so loved in a moment in my entire life. So, Sarah, that is literally my perspective of how we met. And I love you very much. So, my crew means the absolute world to me. In this space that I'm in, I have a bunch of different things that mean a lot to me in it. And me and my dad built some shelves together in here. And on one of my shelves, I have a picture of my entire crew. There is a couple people missing in it, but that is okay. We can replace it with another photo once we get everybody in there. But it's just a reminder that, like, I have so much support behind me. And once I told them that I was going to be releasing a podcast soon, they were like, "That is so awesome. Like, we cannot wait to listen and, like, support you." And, like, I was just, like, speechless because I've never had so much support in my life. And every time I see these people, they're like, "How's it going? How's it coming along? Like, what do you need?" And my crew leaders, they are amazing. They have helped me through this. They are the most tech savvy people. They have helped me with my camera, with everything, all the equipment. I do photography, but I'm not good at videography, so here we are. I'm sorry if this looks bad, but I'm trying my best here. But I'm here to tell you that even when it looks like God is taking something away from you, it's probably because he has something so much better planned. And I know in the moment it might not seem like it because I've been there. In the moment, it feels miserable. And I know for me, I was like, no, I'm done. Like, my life is over. But reality check, I was just getting started. Like, Jesus is like, this is how you're going to get so much closer to me. And wow, it's been such a blessing. So, the next one kind of connects with it too. God is protecting you and is kind. And sometimes a way of protecting you is taking things out of your life that you didn't know that needed to come out of your life. And that is so important because he sees and hears things that you don't see and hear. And try not to think about it too much because that kind of, I'm a control freak. I just like to know everything. And so when I first heard that, I was like, that's so right, though. Like, he sees and hears everything, and we don't know what happens behind closed doors. So those two kind of connect together. And then I know that so many people have so much hard things that they go through in their life. But don't be discouraged about that because one day you're going to be sharing that experience with somebody and you're going to help them get through whatever they're going through, just like I'm doing right now. Like, I went through so much and now I'm sharing it with the whole entire world. And 2 Corinthians 1:4 says he comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. And to me, that is like everything about this podcast because I didn't even know that I wanted to do a Christian podcast. I thought I was going to be starting a true crime podcast, and Jesus had other things in mind. And so I'm using my experiences to share with you all in hopes that you all know exactly how loving God is and how caring and just how great he is to have in your life. I don't know about you all, but I cry over everything. Literally everything. I cry happy tears, sad tears, angry tears. But the good thing about that is like no tear is left unnoticed by God. And that in itself is so amazing to me. Because it's like, you ever like hide your tears from people? Like you're like blinking your tears away? Because I do that a lot. I'd be over here like in a corner, like blinking my tears away. Yeah, I'm a crybaby, but that's okay because you shouldn't be ashamed of crying because no tears wasted. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he rescues those whose spirits are crushed." And then in Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all of my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book." Like, he keeps track of our tears. Like, he has to have one of those, like, counter clickers for me. Like, he's getting up there just for me. I don't know about y'all, but he's got that counter clicker going for me. And it's just going. He'd be like, "Girl, when you gonna stop?" But I think it's so, I don't know, it's just amazing that he counts all of our tears and like nothing goes unnoticed by him. Isn't that crazy? I think it's crazy. Has anybody ever been so controlling over like timing? Like you want to be like, oh, this needs to happen at this time. I need to be married by this age. I need to have kids by this age. I want to be doing this by the time I'm 30. I want to be doing this by the time I'm 25. Yeah, no, that doesn't work with God's timing, because God's timing is probably totally different than your timing. And I'm telling you what, it's a lot better than your timing. I'll tell you that, because I thought I was going to be married by 20 and have kids by 23. I'm still single at 24, y'all. Just know that God's timing is the best for you. And not only is God's timing the best, but his plan is also the best. So timing and plan, I feel like go like hand in hand with each other. And you can have this whole plan and a time frame, and he just laughs at you. He just laughs and he's like, you thought about that. No, that's not how it's going to happen. I mean, it might happen if that's in his plan, but that's not how it worked out for me. I was engaged at 19, broke off that at 20. But I broke off for good reason. I prayed to Jesus and I asked him for guidance, and he guided me in the opposite direction. So, those were just a few things that I wanted to share with you all. I feel like this is going to be fun. We're going to talk about Jesus together every day. Not every day, every week, every Friday. Happy Friday, y'all. It's not Friday when I'm recording this, but happy Friday. When y'all see this, it's going to be March 1st. And it's going to be Friday. So happy Friday. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. And yeah, tell me what you think down below. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me on Instagram. Comment it down below. And then, yeah, I will see you all next week. I hope you all had a blessed week, and I hope you have an even better weekend. I love you all, and so does Jesus. Love y'all.